And we need to decipher this message. To whom and what exactly this message means. Let me, after all of that, just to to put them together and to give my interpretation of this message. I like the word coercion that Pavel was using, and I agree with that. I think it's a coercive act, but what kind of coercive? It is not necessarily nuclear coercion. It definitely might be, and Putin underscored that it is missiles in non-nuclear use, so it can be used also in nuclear version, no doubt. But he played with nuclear and non-nuclear, regardless what would be the reaction of the world and what response might be from the United States, first of all, and from other NATO capitals. But I understand it is like a message for coercive negotiations with not outgoing US administration, but with incoming administration. And the question is, what should be the substance? What should be the content of these negotiations? Ukraine? I'm not sure, because mid-range missile with possible use with nuclear weapons, it is not for Ukraine. It is not for Moldova. It is not for Baltic countries. It is for Europe, for European capitals. It is not a coincidence that participants of the meetings with Putin were discussing the range of this missile. They underscore that whole territory of Europe now is under cover of this, within the reach of this missile. And this is the mid-range missiles. This is aimed at Europe. But if it is aimed at Europe, it is also aimed at NATO, and it is also aimed at the United States in Europe. And putting them together, or all of this together, I would say this is a very strong message. I would say this is a message for incoming, for possible negotiations with incoming US administration about the arrangement for system of international security in Europe, which goes in line with the so-called proposals of Putin back in year 2021, when he offered two drafts of treaties, one with NATO and one with the United States, in December 21. And we do remember the main idea of those documents on the whole thrust of Putin's actions back then, 3 years ago, is to push United States out of Europe, to shift the so-called front line in Europe to the so-called 1997 front line, which means denatoization of Central Europe. Putin publicly claimed and demanded that NATO and United States would leave Central Europe, and all countries that became members of NATO since 1997 should cease to become members of these organizations, and all assets and institutions of NATO and the collective security system in Europe should be moved back to 1997 frontline. My last point would be, do we believe that is the last demand of Mr. Putin? Definitely no. If that happens, so next day, or next month, or next year, Putin would come with new demands.